Hello beautiful people, you're welcome to the channel. My name is Odunayo and I anchor this platform. If today is your first time of tuning into this channel, you are welcome. I'm glad to have you here. On this channel we'll discuss about women's health, how to ensure that we live healthy each day, and all the good stuff. We do a little bit of travel vlogs, lifestyle and all. Today's video will be talking about pregnancy and having your period. Yes, I know it's sort of myth and there are issues about it, controversies actually on the internet. Excuse me. I know there are issues about it, controversies actually on the internet, on the possibility of actually being pregnant and having your period. Women get worried when they have a positive pregnancy test and then they begin to have some form of bleeding, and some other women who probably due to their own calculations or the way they feel, they are thinking in their mind or expecting that they are pregnant, and then they suddenly start to have some form of bleeding. They are worried and sort of confused, like, is it chemical pregnancy, is it real pregnancy, am I having early miscarriage, or issues like that, and it's a major concern. But I want us to know today that medically, pregnancy and period are mutually exclusive. What I mean is that they do not coexist. It is just as if when you have flour and then you have pie. You make your pie from your flour, but then you cannot call your pie flour once you have converted your flour to a pie. So that is just how it is in medical world. It is believed that your period comes as a result of shedding your uterine lining due to the fact that your egg was not fertilized, but pregnancy occurs because your egg has been fertilized. So once the egg has been fertilized, any other bleeding you get medically is not actually a period. But then there are some rare cases, which is the myth that I want to demystify today. One of the reasons why women actually in quotes can have their period while pregnant is because, number one, miscalculations. Some women think, probably they got pregnant last month, or maybe some 3 weeks difference, or due to irregular periods. They were thinking, probably I've been pregnant 2 or 3 months before now and I've been having my period, where actually they just got pregnant. Some it is due to the fact that probably they took a scan and the scan was not accurate in detecting the number of weeks that the baby has been developing, and then they think, probably I've been pregnant 2 or 3 weeks before they were actually pregnant. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to explain. I'm just saying that women thinking they have gotten pregnant earlier than they actually did, and then they start saying, probably their last period they were actually pregnant while they had their last period. And then the second reason is because on some rare occasions some women shed their uterine lining while pregnant. This is actually a threatened miscarriage actually, but there are rare occasions where a woman sheds a part of her uterine lining, that is the part where the baby is not attached to. They shed it off. It is a form of threatened miscarriage actually, because it could actually affect the side where the baby is, but fortunately for them, the baby did not detach and they did not experience a miscarriage. So some of these women, and it could happen monthly, probably due to hormonal imbalance also. So they keep saying, they were having their period while they were pregnant. So aside these two examples that I've given, which actually mimics being pregnant, every other form of bleeding that you have in pregnancy, it is called pregnancy. It is usually called bleeding during pregnancy, not period. Of course, blood comes out from women during pregnancy, but medically we do not call that sort of blood period, because there have been arguments to say, my mother had a period for 9 months. Well, there are some form of bleedings that could happen, and I'm going to be talking about the form of bleedings that you have in your first semester, that you could have, let me not be prophetic about my words, that you could have in your first trimester, second trimester, and your third trimester. For first trimester, most women commonly experience some form of bleeding or spotting in their first trimester. And the first one is actually the implantation bleeding, which is quite common amongst women. They would think it's their period, but actually it's implantation bleeding. Although this kind of bleeding for women who are conversant with their body would totally be different from your normal period. Except you might be busy, you might not notice the difference. But implantation bleeding is usually pinkish or brownish. It is usually not as heavy as a normal period, and you don't feel too much of menstrual cramps or pain like you would feel when you are pregnant. I would not want to dwell too much about this. You can read, look up differences between implantation bleeding and your normal period. So because of this, women get this. Some will say, oh, in my first month I didn't know I was pregnant because I was still having my period. It is actually implantation bleeding, and also because this implantation bleeding occurs around the time of pregnancy, it will come earlier and it will come later depending on how regular your pregnancy is or how accurate or regular your ovulation actually is. Another thing that causes this form of bleeding is changes in the cervix. It could cause some bleeding from the neck of the uterus, which is the cervix. Now, this bleeding is not from the inside, it's not from the uterus, it is just from the cervix, and it is usually very light. Sometimes it could be brownish because it could be a stale blood, and it's not even much. Sometimes you only see it when you wipe, or probably the woman is stressed, and because of the pressure, first semester, the uterus is starting to adjust and expand a little. So those kind of changes actually irritate the cervix, and then you could have very small form of bleeding. Another cause is probably there's an infection, and the woman might be infected with some, of course, the fact that you are pregnant does not mean you cannot have some form of sexually transmitted infection, or maybe VV or something. So it could be some form of vaginal bleeding. When I mean vaginal, that is, the bleeding is actually from the outside, it's just from the vagina. Another form of bleeding is when there is molar pregnancy, and of course this is a kind of miscarriage bleeding. This is when an abnormal mass actually fertilizes instead of a fetus. That is, the fetus actually is like an abnormal mass. There is no baby, it's just like a mass in the uterus. It causes vaginal bleeding, and of course that detaches and then miscarriage occurs. Another reason why a woman would bleed in her first trimester is ectopic pregnancy. You can look that up also. I would not want to overflog this issue. Ectopic pregnancy simply means having your pregnancy in your fallopian tube, that is, the baby or the embryo attaching to the fallopian tube instead of going down into the uterus. This is life-threatening if it is not easily detected, if it is not quickly detected, and then the fallopian tube bursts, God forbid, and it could lead to the death of the mother due to excessive bleeding. Another reason why a woman can experience bleeding in pregnancy also is as a result of a threatened miscarriage, that is early miscarriage, in which the baby actually wants to get out of the uterus. So that could be a reason why the woman is actually bleeding. So if you are bleeding in your early pregnancy, please, you have to see your doctor. You have to talk to your doctor. You don't have to assume that you are having your period while pregnant because your mother and your grandmother had period in quotes while they are pregnant. Please see your doctor. And then moving ahead to the second trimester, the reason why a woman will bleed in her second trimester is preterm labor. That is, the woman is within 4 months and 6 months, probably preterm labor. The baby wants to come, maybe because of cervix dilation. The cervix is not, could not hold the baby, and then the cervix is opened and the baby wants to get out. That's preterm labor. Another reason why a woman can bleed is actually placenta abruption, in which the placenta detaches itself from the uterus. Of course, you know that would lead to excessive bleeding, and the woman needs emergency help immediately. When the placenta detaches from the uterus, of course, the pregnancy is over. Another reason also why a woman wants to bleed in her second trimester, a woman bleeding in her second trimester actually is not a good news. It is not something you have to be thinking twice about. It is actually an emergency. Another thing is uterine rupture. Probably the uterine is weak due to maybe abortions, or maybe let me put abortion last, probably due to surgery or trauma to the uterus. Probably the woman had C-section continuous severally, or the woman had a myomectomy or some other form of surgery, or probably injury also or whatever on the uterus, and the uterus is actually very weak. On rare occasions, the uterus could actually tear up, and then God forbid the woman can have a miscarriage. And another one is placenta previa. Now this placenta previa is actually one of the reasons why a woman can bleed throughout her period, because this is majorly this simply means the placenta covers the cervix, or partially or fully. That is, instead of the placenta to be within the uterus, it is covering the cervix, and that the cervix is like the opening of the vagina. It is just as if the placenta wants to give way, wants to come out, and of course the baby would actually come out. This can be gives the woman a lot of discomfort, and then the woman can actually bleed throughout her pregnancy. Now these are the reasons why a woman would actually have bleeding in her second trimester. Going to third trimester, some of these reasons that are in second trimester, placenta previa, uterine rupture, and all preterm labor, are also reasons why a woman can bleed in her third trimester. But for bleeding in a woman's third trimester, the baby can still be saved. So for the woman has to as a matter of emergency, go to see a doctor, go to the hospital immediately. What this video is all about, or what I have been trying to say to you, is that once you have a positive pregnancy test, either through blood test or home, all these home test kits, pregnancy test kits, once you have a positive pregnancy test, please ensure that to see your doctor if you have any form of bleeding, either the pregnancy have been confirmed at the lab or not. This is because sometimes, just like we have the issue of ectopic pregnancy, it might not just be a form of natural miscarriage that wants to happen. What if it is the fallopian tube that is actually tearing up and the woman is bleeding? So any form of bleeding during pregnancy should not be assumed. Like some people would say that I'm pregnant and I don't know. I think there's a show that is currently on that's talking about maybe all this pseudo pregnancy, and people saying they are pregnant for 7 months, 9 months, and they don't know until the day of delivery. Once you think or you assume you are pregnant and you're having some form of irregular or strange form of bleeding, please, it doesn't cost you anything. Try to see your doctor. You might just be saving your life. You might just be saving the life of your spouse. So thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed this video. You can share this video with your friends. I so much appreciate it. Give it a like. It helps to to build this channel. It helps you to also send our videos to other people. So that's one of the ways you can contribute to the growth of this channel. Thank you so much, and I love you. See you some other time, and bye bye.